My name's Nellie Sung, and I'm 39 years old. I was born in Seoul, South Korea, and grew up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. I came when I was, I guess, 7, 8 months old, and was adopted by an American family. I have one older sister who I always used to say she was homemade, and so she's not adopted, and then they had me. You know, I've had these conversations with my parents, not recently, but when I was older, maybe a teenager or in college, and I guess the school of thought back there was just, you know, assimilation. And so, you know, they were very open-minded about things, but it just wasn't, I just never really felt like I fit in. So I had a difficult childhood. I didn't have very many friends for most of, I don't know, until college. That sounds so bad, but I don't know. I think my mom one time said that she felt like I got off the airplane pissed off and stayed that way till I was around 18. And I don't think it was because of lack of love. I mean, I think that they really, at that point, did everything that they knew how to try to help me. I mean, I will say now, sort of in retrospect, since I'm, you know, a grown-up, so to speak, that everything was really focused on what I could do or how should I, you know, we'll send her to counseling or we'll do this for her, but it was never an evaluation of the environment. I mean, I think my parents really they absolutely did what they thought was best. And so I went to private Catholic schools because that's what they did. And I was always the only person of color. You know, that was their values, and that was the best education that they could give me at that point, so that's where I went. After high school, I really wanted to go away to college, and then I ended up staying. So we did my undergrad in Minneapolis, and I did a semester abroad my senior year. The fall of my senior year, I studied at Yonsei University. I think up until that point, like with all of the challenges that I had socially, I didn't have this desire to go back to Korea to look for my roots. Like every now and then I would think about it, but I just didn't have this like strong desire. And then in college, I started to become a little bit more curious. And, you know, a lot of agencies have these like mass trips where you go and spend 2 weeks and you go. And maybe that was a way of me not wanting to be like all the other adopted kids. But I also felt like having been there for like a half a year would be such a different experience. You know, as you can imagine, it was a very emotional experience. I wanted to love it there so much, and I hated it the first few weeks. I was so hungry, like everything, all the food was just weird, and the only Korean food that I'd really been exposed to is kind of like the typical food that American people, like japchae or, you know, mandu or bulgogi, but like everything was just, it was monsoon season, it was raining, it was really hard, and I felt like I was determined to make it work, and I don't know why. And I wonder if somehow if I came home and had it not be a positive experience, that would have been a failed experience. But I really wanted to force myself to like it. And so I did. And I think after I got over that first like 3 weeks, it was really great. And I remember just walking around and sitting on the subway or the train and marveling at how no one knows that I'm American until I open my mouth. Being able to blend into a crowd for the first time. and just having, I don't know, not sticking out. I really liked it. I mean, there were a lot of things that I also didn't like about it. That, like, Korean people are not friendly. And they're not, there's absolutely this stigma. And I know that a lot of kids who go back, either as kids or adults who are adopted, they don't always feel welcome. I never was really outspoken about the fact that I was adopted, but I never lied about it. And because when I talked about it, and I found that experience to be true too, like people would feel sorry for you. You know, some people would say, oh, it's so great that you came back here. Other people would say, why would you want to come back? It was just very strange. But I loved it. And I did like being there. And I think I just had such an insatiable desire to fit in throughout my childhood that I was going to make it work. When I was living in Korea, I volunteered at the orphanage that I stayed at. It was wonderful and awful, I guess. But one of the things that I did was I came back to the US for a cousin's wedding, and I escorted a baby to be adopted. Being on the plane, just holding her and crying and just sobbing because I was so scared of what her life might be like. I was very upset with Korean people and society for just the whole industry. And it very much is an industry that, like, really, you people have such this warped sense of what family means that you're the only developed country that has exported children. I felt so much anger at the patriarchal system, so much anger at this society that was like, you know, that didn't welcome me, that sent me away because there wasn't a supportive community for Korean people to keep their own babies. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of anger about that, but it wasn't never directed towards my mom. So this baby that I brought back to America, I met in August for the first time when our family was in. That's why I said it's kind of like come to the surface again. We got reacquainted on Facebook, and I saw her in August when our family went to Minnesota.
How was that experience?
I really liked it. It was really nice, and I was so happy to hear that she's happy. You know, everybody has such different experiences, and I was so scared that she was gonna have to have the same experiences that I did. My kids met her. They loved to meet her. She loved to meet them. I think what's also, it's very much like I think a mutually positive experience. She talks so much about how it's been, you know, the highlight of her year to get to meet me. And I feel like she was just as excited to meet me as I was to meet her. My name is Nellie Sung, and this is my Korean American story.